Welcome back. This is week 3 of our Exploring the Spiritual Powers tools by Jane Elizabeth Hart. I hope you're enjoying the lessons. And I sure hope that you're expressing yourselves freely in your groups, because that is one of the intentions of spirit groups, is to connect, to be able to share in a safe environment where you can explore different avenues of the expression of God within you. And I just want to gently remind you that you are all on an individual evolutionary journey. And wherever you are on that journey is the perfect place for you. And it's very important that we not take ourselves in a bad place because somebody else is experiencing something different than you. Because there is no right, wrong on this journey. We just get to experience it. And we get to experience it together on different paths. And that's one of the reasons why unity, new thought, is such a wonderful expression, because no matter where you are on the path, you're included. And that's what makes it so loving to me and so inclusive, that anybody can walk in the door and say, hey, I want to know more about God. What do I got to do? Without blame, shame, or being told what to do. This is all an opportunity for you to experience more of who you are as the divine expression of the God within you. So let us begin. I'm going to share my screen as we have previously done. And yep, here we go. Good deal. So this week, I want to talk about conscious mind and subconscious mind. Very, very important things. In fact, we will be exploring this exact same topic as one of our Sunday talks during the Lenten season. And if I have the timing right, I believe Ash Wednesday is this Wednesday, and it could very well be next Sunday. We're going to actually talk about the 3 phases of mind: conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. But for our purposes, for spiritual power tools, we're just going to touch on the 2 of them. So conscious mind. When we are conscious, we know what this means. Revealing Word tells us that the mind that makes one know of one's mental operations and states of consciousness. There's a phase of mind in which one is actively aware of one's thoughts. This is the stage where we ask you to take a look at your thoughts. Last week, we talked about all your thoughts, and certainly all of your spoken word are prayers. So the more we're conscious of our thoughts, our conscious mind, and what's going on, the easier it is for us to change our minds about that conscious thought. If we continue to go below the line with negative thoughts, when we're conscious, we can change those thoughts to be above the line, which brings us more into a state of equilibrium. So the subconscious mind is what I call a big box that holds everything. It's the memory mind. Everything that's ever happened to you is sitting in the subconscious mind. Your previous lives as well are sitting there. That reincarnation is all sitting there. Now, here's the thing. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the truth and an untruth. It just collects. It just collects, and it creates a form. And it is the home of our habits, the storehouse of our past thoughts and experiences. It carries on all the bodily functions, such as circulation, breathing, digestion, and so forth. This is where our body operates, because we have a memory of how to breathe, how to have digestion, how to have circulation. It's all sitting in the subconscious mind. We are not conscious of what goes on in these processes, but divine intelligence works perfectly in all of them, unless man interferes through ignorant thinking. Ignorant thinking, that's below the line behavior. Because I think when we're conscious of what we're saying and what we're experiencing and what we share with other people, we know when it's wrong. We just ignore it and we stay there. And then we struggle with why God and why life is not working for us. So, which brings us to the 4th dimensional consciousness, which Jane Hart mentions in her book. The 4th dimension is outside of the 3-dimensional. So if you wanted to turn to page 19, 20, and 21 in your book, you're going to see some wonderful things that she points out, which I'm asking you to pick one of these. Pick one or more of these areas on page 19, 20, 21, in which we can get out of the third dimension consciousness and spend more time in the fourth dimension consciousness. And give you an example, the very first one. You cannot turn off your mind. That's the third dimension consciousness. Fourth dimension says you are mastering the art of turning off your mind. You see, as we meditate more and more, we're turning off the mind, and that allows us to live in the fourth dimension. So I'm asking you here to pick one or more of those areas on 19, 20, 21, there's a whole bunch, in which you focus on the fourth dimension consciousness. When you pick ones that you're comfortable with, and then be conscious thought, be conscious that you don't beat yourself up if you're not 100% successful. This is a process. No comparing yourself to anyone else. So when somebody mentions something else in the group, it's not about you, it's about them. It's a practice, not a prison sentence. Practice it. Practice it over and over again. And one of the best ways that you can learn to practice it is when we're conscious. When we're conscious of how we're living in the third dimension, lack and limitation, and move to the fourth dimension where there is no lack or limitation. Be aware and be conscious of your behaviors and thoughts. When you feel like you've gone below the line, you're probably in the third dimension. Be curious when you repeat things in the third dimension consciousness. This is your divine self telling you that there's an area that needs to be looked at. When you become aware of how you're living in the third dimension, that's the time. That's the window where you can make a different choice. Love yourself, and you explore the possibilities of the fourth dimension. Explore it. Have fun with yourself. This does not have to be a heavy burden. This is an exploration. And the more that you can explore and be curious, the easier it is for us to understand it. Now, I want to leave you with these 3 discussion questions. 1, what experiences did you have while living in the fourth dimension consciousness? What experiences did you have? Share with the group. Share how your meditations and journaling are going. Explain how subconsciousness creates below the line behavior. And I want to go into a little bit more detail on this third one. You see, in our ministry, we teach the quantum living course, and there may be some folks in your group that have taken that class. And that class is all about being hijacked by our subconscious thoughts into our conscious thoughts, into behaviors that we didn't want to do, and yet we did them anyway. The quantum living course, which is coming up, jump in. It starts on February 21st. Get yourself in it, because that's where you get to experience how the subconscious is holding on to things that we perceived as real and are now, as adults, reacting in that world as if those thoughts were real. And so you get a chance to explore, how do we dissect a behavior that we feel like sometimes we have no control over? So I give you that opportunity to look at that, because when we react, when we are triggered, when we lash out, when we say things to somebody and you're like, you've said it without even knowing you've said it. And you're like, oh, I didn't mean to say that to you. We kid around and say, oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, we react. And the quantum living course gives you a chance to pause and change your reaction. And we teach you the tool with which to do that. So explain how your subconsciousness creates below the line behavior. It hijacks you. It just takes over. And it's sad, and yet it can absolutely be controlled, especially when we start living out of the third and more into the fourth dimension. So I leave that with you. Godspeed. Have a good time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks now.